All right, guys, welcome to our first lecture in the new class, which is managing sport organizations. This is going to be a real quick lecture, just kind of talking about just some basic terminology around management, just so we have somewhere to start with. So, to understand, as a manager, we've got access to a lot of resources, and these are kind of common sense, but we have the human aspect of it. So we have the people that we work with. We have a financial aspect, which is our budget or our resources available for us money wise. We have our physical resources, which can deal with things like our buildings, our merchandise. And then we have our informational research, which is can be things like data, emails, voicemails, just intellectual type information that's available to us. I understand that we're going to be, as a manager, we're going to be basically measured on how our performance is and how well we meet our organizational goals. And in the first class, we talked a lot about leadership, which was a lot of kind of that big visionary type of person. This is much more of the day-to-day operations that we're going to be talked on. So we're going to be judged as managers on how we do day-to-day. Excuse me. There are a lot of important traits. A Gallup poll basically said that three important traits that people thought were important for successful managers were having integrity, being industrious, and being able to get along with people. And all those things are important. A lot of skills that we have to understand, that we have to be able to deal with. We have to have technical skills. These technical skills are things like the ability to work with Microsoft Excel, to be able to work with software specific to our industry. Could be Adobe Creative Suites, could be things as simple as Microsoft Word, but we want to have a technical knowledge of the software that we would be dealing with in our particular job. Obviously, we got to have people skills. We got to be able to get along with people, to be able to handle the multiple kind of relationships that you have to deal with in sport. We have to have communication skills. We have to be able to get across what it is that we're doing, and some of that comes with being politically savvy, knowing how to get things done, knowing who can make things happen within an organization. We can have conceptual skills, which is a little bit hard to understand, but this is more being a good problem solver, being able to critical think, being able to understand how the various parts of an organization work together to get the objectives done. And then obviously decision making is very important. We've got to be able to sometimes make tough decisions, and sometimes not have maybe the best information to go on, and we have to do the best we can. These kind of technical skills are kind of the hard skills that we probably concentrate on more. Okay, these are these things that we do on a day-to-day basis. That we can put our hands on. We know we have to work with computers. Those are technical type skills. But a lot of people nowadays are looking for people who have soft skills. These people who can handle conflict and can handle decision making and can communicate well and get people to take initiative and solve complex problems without being asked. These are just as important. So a lot of kind of management skills we have to start with or start to think about is we have to understand we want to have a full repertoire of these things. Not only do we want to be able to communicate with people and do those technical type skills, but we want to be multi-threat. We want to be good at decision making. We want to be good at solving problems. So obviously, there's a lot of different levels of management, and what happens at those levels is going to be really different. I mean, you have the kind of top level deal where they have to do a lot of that abstract thinking, that decision making, that kind of planning and organizing. Middle type managers, they have to kind of have a balance of all those kind of skills. They have to be able to do them all. And then your first line kind of managers, they're more having to deal with the technical day to day, dealing with people, short term type decision making. And this important traits of managers is something that's going to deal with your discussion this week. And this is just one person's opinion of what are important kind of traits. But obviously, being able to supervise, being able to help people achieve, and being able to have the drive to achieve organizational type objectives, being intelligent, being able to make decisions and not waver on decisions, being self-assured in what you're doing, and then having an initiative to get things done. I'll be anxious to see what you guys feel are the most important traits. And obviously, there are a lot of functions that a person can do as a manager in a management position, but they kind of come down to, coming up with plans for where the organization's going, getting those plans organized, leading people to trying to achieve those objectives, and then coming up with a way to control those objectives and make sure that they're measured, and that the organization is moving in the direction that it needs to go. And a lot of managers have to wear a lot of hats, and it just depends on where you're at in the process. If you're at the end of the spectrum where you're kind of setting those organizational type objectives, and you're more of a role of a leader, a figurehead. Somewhere in the middle of it is more of a person who's kind of maybe monitoring what's going on, disseminating information, kind of a spokesperson type. And then if you're the person who's actually on the end that's tasked with achieving those goals, then you're much more of dealing with conflict, negotiating, learning how to allocate resources, coming up with creative ways to achieve those. And so at some point in all of our lives, we're going to be in all these different roles. You just have to understand what's required of you based on where you are on that spectrum. And then obviously, we kind of get the ideas of the different types of management. We've kind of talked about those, and your goals are going to be different, each one of those. And even more specific, there's even different types of managers. There's a kind of a general manager who's overseeing a specific type of or overseeing the whole organization, or a big part of the organization. There's a functional type manager, which is more of a person who's dealing with a certain specific part of the organization. So maybe somebody, if we're looking at an athletic department, the person over compliance would be a functional manager. And then you have a project manager, which might be somebody who's in charge of just one specific project. And that's all they're in charge of trying to do. Maybe they're trying to raise money for the organization. So a lot of levels of management. At some point, we're all going to be in that situation, and so the goal is that hopefully we get good at all those different aspects over this semester.